go more towards soul.
Mm,
Uh, the thing that almost like if we didn't have to concern ourselves with survival, what has to be done? What has to be made? What has to be created, regardless of any scarcity or lack or uh, in resistance in the way? The passion is the calling. It's the purpose. It's
mm.
all leading towards the highest of why we're here and who we are.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. All right. So let me go here first. Like I said, I got to hear you talk a little bit and read some of the material and stuff that you're doing, which I think is super cool. And I know you often refer to it as like an evolution, like there's an evolution of humanity. And the way you just said it kind of clicked with me in some ways. So I'm curious if I'm thinking of it right. Like
Yes,
it's almost like, not to put words in your mouth, but it's almost like historically humanity since the dawn of our species was programmed with the main focus being survival, right? We need to survive. We need oxygen, we need food, we need to reproduce. There's kind of these base primal things. We're kind of evolving to a point where we obviously still need those things, but they're not as hard to come by. They're kind of more secure for most of us. There's some people in the world, obviously, that
exactly.
unfortunately don't. But for those that are lucky enough to have that be in place, the evolution is to say now what we're driven towards, now what we're programmed for is this passion. Just like we used to be driven towards, I need food, I need food, I need food. Now it's kind of passion has filled that. Is that a way to think of it?
Yes, it definitely when we talk about like a vision for the direction of the species that
Yes,
we
yes.
have. But I want to like respond by kind of speaking to it again, maybe in a more technological metaphor here,
Okay.
where in everything that you said, I see survival of the fittest is kind of what you were
Mm-hmm.
speaking there, right? The
Mm-hmm.
programming. Well, let's consider that more of an operating system of the human
Okay.
species, right? And with that survival of the fittest is kind of like a battle with nature in a sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're in competition with each other. There's resources, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a very competitive and conflict based and uh, separative kind of thing. Where evolution was this like external force happening to a species, and over long thousands, millions of years, the change over time to adapt to life and circumstances and conditions and intelligence. This operating system with evolution being kind of external, how we've been in the operating system. But this upgrade that you're kind of
Yep.
speaking to
Yep.
is conscious evolution. This is a new opportunity to the species. This is the opportunity to not only have not evolution being an external force, the winds
Mm-hmm.
happening to us.
Mm-hmm.
We have the reins now. We get to grab it and steer it consciously. This has not been an opportunity to the species, or it's been hidden, maybe in
Yeah.
secret
Yeah.
or the that sort of thing. But that's the opportunity, and that's where we get to steer it towards the upward uh, ways that you were speaking,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
passion first and not survival.
Oof. All right. There's so many cool ways to go with that. So let's try and hit all of them if we can. So firstly, I'll say like, which I'm sure you've thought about, run into before. Like there's an aspect of and this word, we'll take it where it goes. There's a godlike nature to that. The ability to step outside of evolution and how nature has been pushing us along, and we're just here for that ride. To step outside of it and say, no, I'm going to direct it now of how this functions. There's like a part of me that hears that and is like, that's fucking awesome. There's another part that's almost horrified. Like it's kind of like AI a little bit. Like there's this aspect of like, can we control that? Should we control that? So there's a
Yeah.
lot of different ways that goes. Let me go to the most kind of meta philosophical piece of it first, which hopefully this will make sense as I explain it to myself
Yeah.
as well as to you. If we are, so if you think of it in the older version, right, the prior programming system where evolution was driving us, nature was pushing us along, we were going with it. The guiding light, the kind of overarching force that's pushing things is that it is nature, right? It is nature and evolution, that whole kind of thing, which maybe it goes back to a god, maybe it doesn't. As we take it over and we say, okay, now I'm conscious, now I'm at the reign, what is actually direct, like what directs it? What is it being pushed towards? What is it like? How do we even decide what we want to be aimed towards once we have the ability to step outside of everything we know and say we're going to pick where we go next? You know what I mean? Like what's the value system that underpins that so that we have a sense of where we should be pushed if we're not being pushed by nature anymore?
Wow. That what an epic question that
Yeah,
is.
if it makes sense. Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Um, the the thing that popped up when you said that was, and this, I guess we're going more philosophical, so we can really mention like seeing that each of us are kind of have a perception of a world.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many in your audience do like, there's like law of attraction, there's manifesting, all
Yep.
these forms of conscious evolution that we dabble and play with, almost to that level, if they've heard like being the creator of your
Yes.
reality, right?
Yes.
Like that's kind of how we speak of this, uh having the reins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're each that kind of way of creativity. um so for me, the way that I kind of approach this power, this like scary, exciting opportunity, is I wanted to understand the mechanics of the
Like it.
game
Yep.
of it.
Like a first principles level view of how this actually works. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And what I see from that kind of big picture, I guess duality is, well, the game is really from that level, love versus fear.
Okay.
In a big broad stroke of simplicity, when you can see the game as love versus fear,
Hmm.
it brings you closer to that moment of like, it's not necessarily about the future of things, of like how life looks in material transformation, but it's closer to our vibration, the the frequencies in which our consciousness is tuned to or aimed at.
Hmm.
And when that love versus fear game is kind of like played with, it makes it a lot more simple to see that what we're actually not, control is a big word. That's,
Yep.
it's like a
Yep.
kind of a personal control way of seeing it. But if it's more subtractive and more to the mastery of love versus fear, it's a lot lighter than that.
Hmm.
It's more, what is the frequency that I want to like aim at, upward spiraling or downward spiraling, self-awareness or self-conscious. It aims us closer to the truth of like, being light. And what are we choosing, love or fear?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to me.